20 pieces of silver. That was the price 10 brothers put on their own flesh and blood. Bound in chains and hauled onto a camel, Joseph, a boy who was a prince only yesterday, looks back through tear-filled eyes. The dust of the southern trade route slowly swallows the only home he has ever known. He doesn't know it yet, but as of this moment, his name has been erased from his family's history. Back in Canaan, a cruel lie is born from the blood of a young goat. Jacob, the heartbroken father, collapses as his trembling hands touch the gore on his son's favorite coat. His scream pierces the desert night. A wild beast has torn him to pieces. My Joseph is gone. He vows to carry this grief to his grave. But the truth isn't found in the teeth of a beast. The truth is being dragged across the scorching Sahara, straight into the heart of the world's greatest empire, Egypt. In a land of towering pyramids and foreign gods, Joseph is auctioned off like a piece of livestock. He is bought by Potiphar, the captain of Pharaoh's guard. Yet, in the suffocating darkness of slavery, something miraculous happens. Joseph doesn't just survive, he thrives. Everything he touches turns to gold. Every task he performs prospers. But his rising success is about to attract a different kind of attention, a flame that threatens to burn his world down all over again. Stay with us. If you think Joseph's luck has finally turned, you're dead wrong. In the house of Potiphar, Joseph is about to face a predator more dangerous than any desert beast, a powerful woman who uses beauty as a weapon. One no could mean his death. One yes could destroy his soul. Don't go anywhere. The shocking scandal of the second robe and the ultimate test of character is coming up next. It all started with a father's favoritism. Jacob made no secret of his love for Joseph, the son of his old age. He gifted him a coat of many colors, a royal garment that signaled Joseph was the chosen heir, pushing his 10 older brothers to the bitter fringes of the family. The sparks of jealousy turned into a wildfire when Joseph shared his prophetic dreams. We were binding sheaves of grain in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it. I saw the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowing down to me. To his brothers, this wasn't a prophecy, it was an insult. The pit at Dothan. When Joseph went to find his brothers in the wilderness, they saw the dreamer coming from a distance. They stripped him of his precious robe and threw him into a dry, crumbling cistern. As Joseph huddled in the dark, screaming for mercy, his brothers sat just a few feet away, coldly eating their dinner. Their only mercy was not shedding his blood themselves. Instead, they sold him to Ishmaelite traders for a handful of silver. They thought they had buried the dreamer and his dreams forever. They had no idea that their act of malice was the first gear turning in a divine plan to save the world.
In the house of Potiphar, Joseph was no longer just a slave. He was the engine that made everything run. Potiphar recognized a rare brilliance in him, a divine touch that turned every investment into a windfall. Soon, Joseph was the chief operating officer of the most powerful household in the district. He had everything: status, trust, and a striking appearance that didn't go unnoticed. But success in Egypt came with a deadly price. Potiphar's wife began to eye Joseph, not as a servant, but as a prize, day after day. She cornered him. Her request was blunt: "Come to bed with me." For a young man in his prime, with no family to answer to, and a master who was rarely home, the temptation was immense. But Joseph's integrity was ironclad. His response remains one of the most powerful standoffs in history. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How then could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" One afternoon, the house was empty. She caught him by his cloak, her fingers digging into the fabric. "Lie with me," she hissed. Joseph didn't hesitate. He didn't negotiate. He turned and bolted, leaving his outer garment gripped in her hands. Infuriated by the rejection, she transformed from a lover into a monster. She screamed for the servants, holding Joseph's cloak like a trophy of war. When Potiphar returned, she spun a web of lies. "This Hebrew slave you brought here came in to make a mockery of me. But when I screamed, he ran out, leaving his cloak beside me." Potiphar's rage was instant. Without a trial, without a word in his own defense, Joseph was stripped of his position and dragged away. For the second time in his life, Joseph was betrayed by a piece of clothing. For the second time, he was thrown into a hole this time. The dark, suffocating stone walls of the king's prison. But here is the question. Can you truly bury a man whom God has chosen? Behind these bars, Joseph is about to meet two men with two terrifying nightmares. One will walk free, the other will face the executioner. And Joseph's ability to see into the future is about to reach the ears of the most powerful man on earth, the Pharaoh himself. The ultimate zero-to-hero transformation is coming up next. You do not want to miss the moment Joseph steps out of the shadows and onto the throne.
Joseph was a ghost in the system, abandoned by his family, framed by his mistress, and buried in the king's prison. But the prison couldn't hold his spirit. Just as he did in Potiphar's house, Joseph rose to the top, eventually running the entire cell block for the warden. One morning, two high-ranking officials, Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and chief baker, awoke in terror. They had dreams they couldn't explain. Joseph, ever the servant, listened to the cupbearer. He predicted restoration. In 3 days, you will hold Pharaoh's cup again. To the baker, he delivered a death sentence. In 3 days, Pharaoh will hang you. Both came true. As the cupbearer was led out to freedom, Joseph made one desperate plea. "Remember me when it goes well with you." But the cupbearer didn't remember. For 2 long years, Joseph sat in silence, listening to the drip of water on stone, seemingly forgotten by both man and God. The silence was shattered when Pharaoh himself had a dream that no magician or wise man in Egypt could solve. 7 fat, healthy cows devoured by 7 sickly, skeletal cows. 7 full heads of grain swallowed by 7 withered ones. Suddenly, the cupbearer's memory sparked. "I remember my failings today," he whispered to the king. Joseph didn't take the credit. He told Pharaoh, "It is not in me. God will give Pharaoh an answer of peace." He explained the vision. Egypt would have 7 years of unprecedented abundance, followed by 7 years of a famine so brutal it would consume the land. Joseph didn't just give a warning, he gave a solution. He proposed a national grain reserve system. Pharaoh, stunned by the wisdom of this Hebrew prisoner, took the signet ring from his own finger and placed it on Joseph's. In a single day, Joseph went from a numbered prisoner to the Grand Vizier of Egypt, second only to Pharaoh. He rode in a golden chariot, and the very people who might have mocked him now bowed the knee. But the story is far from over. The famine Joseph predicted is about to strike the entire known world, and it's going to drive 10 desperate men from Canaan straight into Joseph's court. They think their brother is dead, Joseph knows they are standing right in front of him. Will he choose revenge or redemption? The psychological chess match between Joseph and his brothers is about to begin. You cannot miss the high-stakes confrontation in the next part. The famine Joseph predicted had become a global catastrophe. Deep in the land of Canaan, Jacob's family was starving. With no other choice, Jacob sent his 10 oldest sons to Egypt to buy grain. As the 10 men entered the throne room, they did exactly what Joseph's dream had predicted 20 years earlier. They fell prostrate on the ground, bowing their faces to the earth. Joseph recognized them instantly. The faces of the men who had ignored his screams from the pit were now inches from his sandals. But to them, Joseph was dead. This man was a powerful, terrifying Egyptian lord who spoke through a translator. Joseph didn't reveal himself. Instead, he played a dangerous game. He accused them of being spies. You have come to see where our land is unprotected. The pressure cooker. The brothers, terrified, tried to prove their honesty by mentioning their family. We are 12 brothers. The youngest is with our father, and one is no more. Joseph had found what he was looking for. Benjamin, his only full brother, was still alive. But had these men changed, or were they still the same murderers who sold him for silver? To find out, Joseph threw them in prison for 3 days, eventually releasing them on one condition: they must return with Benjamin. To ensure their return, he bound Simeon in chains and kept him as a hostage. Months later, the brothers returned, bringing a trembling Benjamin with them. Joseph hosted a lavish feast, but the real test was yet to come. As they prepared to leave with their grain, Joseph secretly ordered his personal silver cup to be hidden in Benjamin's sack. Just as they reached the city gates, Joseph's guards swarmed them. The sacks were opened. When the silver cup was pulled from Benjamin's bag, the brothers collapsed in despair. According to the law, Benjamin was now a slave for life. This is the moment of truth. 20 years ago, these men abandoned Joseph without a second thought. Now, they have the perfect excuse to leave Benjamin behind and go home to safety. Will they repeat history? Or will someone step up to break the cycle of betrayal? The most emotional scene in the entire story is seconds away. Prepare yourself for the grand reveal and the speech that changed everything. The finale of Joseph's journey starts right now. Don't go anywhere. The trap was perfect. Benjamin was caught with the stolen silver cup. By Egyptian law, he was now a slave for life. The brothers could have walked away. They could have gone home to Canaan and told their father another lie. But then, Judah stepped forward. The same man who, decades ago, had suggested selling Joseph for 20 pieces of silver, now did the unthinkable. He fell to his knees and begged the vizier, "Please, let me stay as your slave in place of the boy. If I go back without him, the grief will kill my father. Take me instead." At that moment, Joseph saw what he had been waiting for: true repentance. He couldn't hold it back any longer. The cold, calculated Egyptian persona shattered. He ordered his guards out of the room. And then, a sound erupted that was heard throughout the entire palace. The sound of a man sobbing with 20 years of pent-up agony. He looked at his terrified brothers and spoke for the first time in their mother tongue, Hebrew. "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" But Joseph didn't reach for a sword. He reached for them. "Do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here," he whispered through tears. "It was not you who sent me here, but God. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to save many lives. The news spread like wildfire through Egypt. Pharaoh himself sent chariots and wagons to bring the entire family from Canaan. When the 130-year-old Jacob finally saw his son not as a ghost, but as the ruler of the greatest empire on earth, the two men clung to each other and wept for a long time. The dreamer hadn't just survived. He had become the savior of his family and the world. From a dark pit to a dark prison, and finally to a golden throne. The journey was complete. The story of Joseph is more than an ancient drama. It's a blueprint for the human spirit. It tells us that God never wastes your pain. Whether you are in a pit of betrayal, a prison of false accusations, or the waiting room of a forgotten promise, your story isn't over yet. What the world intended to use to break you, the divine can use to make you. Joseph's life proves that forgiveness isn't a sign of weakness. It's the ultimate power. He chose to be a bridge instead of a wall. And in doing so, he saved a nation and birthed a legacy that still echoes today. If you feel stuck in a dark pit of betrayal today, or if you're languishing in a prison of forgotten promises, remember this: your pain is never wasted. What others intended for your destruction, destiny is using for your development. Joseph turned his chains into the very links that led him to the throne. And your story is no different. Joseph's legacy is just one of many extraordinary lives where faith turned the impossible into reality. To continue uncovering these epic tales of saints, heroes, and the spiritual breakthroughs that changed the world, join us here at Saintly Journey. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a step in this divine adventure. These aren't just stories from the past, they are blueprints for your future. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next chapter of our saintly journey where the walk of faith never ends.